Hi, Steve from Recall Knowledge here. I'm really excited to bring to you today's sneak peek video sponsored by Mercenary Marketplace. This is a new premium product coming soon to Foundry Virtual Tabletop for Pathfinder 2e, scheduled to launch on May 16th. Avery Ray, the maker of such cool modules like the PF2E Drag Ruler and Enhanced Terrain, was awesome enough to let me be the first to share their work with you guys here on our channel. Now, full disclosure, in exchange for this preview, I was given a free copy of the product, but otherwise I've received no compensation for the review. Now, the product is called Mercenary Marketplace Volume 1, and it's a collection of actors and templates you can use and add to your GM toolbox to help enhance your session in fun ways for your players. It will let you add some customization to your existing tokens or pull in NPCs from different classes or roles and drop them right into your scenes. Why don't we just go ahead, enough talking, let's jump right in and see what the module has to offer. So when you install and load your world, you're greeted with this cool introduction screen. And now we can see a directory here of all the sort of has to offer, including an NPC catalog, a template catalog, and other links like macros. Sort of the text blurb here, introduction. Thank you for purchasing the Mercenary Marketplace Volume 1. Within this module, you'll find 373 new generic NPCs ready to use in your campaigns and 29 templates that are drag and droppable. You can just drag the template to an existing token and have it modify that token. That's Foundry for you. It's really cool. It goes in to explain there are different categories of NPCs, and we'll dig in and look at some of those. Crews, which, spoilers, are my favorite thing in this whole module, like by far, and troops for you to use. And it has some examples of how to use everything, which is pretty cool. But I just want to jump in and show you some of this content. Let's start by looking at the NPCs. And the first option it has here is NPCs with classes. Now, one of the most common requests that I see asked on Discord or forums all the time is, are there stats for using wizards at X level? Or, is there a list of NPCs by class I can add to my game? Well, there are some rules around that vaguely in the Game Mastery Guide, but this module will let you do all of that with a drag and droppable option. Let's start by looking at the NPCs with classes. So all I gotta do is click this link. It'll open a new directory, a new journal entry. Here you'll find a catalog of NPCs built to resemble members of one of the 12 classes from the core rulebook, spread from levels 1 through 18. It's a single NPC with the same sort of class features, just bumped up and down in different levels. So, for example, if you wanted to pull a cleric into your game and you needed a 10th level cleric, you can click this option right here. Here we go. It's a mercenary cleric of travel, 10th level cleric. It has weapons, it has actions, it has a spell list ready to go. You can drag this into your game, and my 10th level cleric is that easy. Maybe you want something more martial. We're going to take a fighter. Let's take a 10th level fighter or an 11th level fighter. We can see they got the katana, the short bow, attack of opportunity, double slice as a feat. This NPC, while it's not 100% built using PC rules, because let's face it, as a GM, you don't actually want your NPCs to be as complicated as a PC, right? You want to hit some of those core features and feelings that make that NPC feel like that class without being an exact copy of for instance, a fighter. So this does a good job by kind of highlighting what should a fighter have and building on that. But you can see, you have these for all the level ranges and all the classes. And one thing that's kind of cool here is Avery is given their sort of thoughts, like how do you use these, right? And it says the NPCs with class have been provided for use between levels 1 and 18, allowing you to use them with minimal modification for the majority of your campaigns. So it says the NPCs are designed to use most appropriately for named antagonists, either directly unmodified or tweaked as with some of the other templates. And while the NPCs with class can be dropped into the world to represent generic antagonists, like, oh, there's just a random wizard that you come across and here he is, you don't want to do the sort of Skyrim bandit problem that they're referencing, which is all the background NPCs level up the party. The whole world levels up, so now every wizard that you come across is suddenly the same level as the party. It doesn't really feel like a living world like that. But that's where the sort of crew template that we'll talk about later comes in, where you can make a crew of wizards instead of like a single powerful wizard, and that's kind of a fun thing you can do. And all these also have this design philosophy from Avery. It says, while these NPCs have been designed to emulate player classes, in many cases the abilities have been simplified, condensed, or reflavored to make them easier to run for GMs. And I love this choice because, like I said before, you don't want complex NPCs. You want them to do something, feel flavorful, and let the game move on. But sometimes you don't really want a specific class done, right? I don't need a wizard. I don't need a fighter. Maybe I have an NPC that needs to fill a certain role. Maybe I need an archer, or maybe I need someone to harass the back lines. That's when you get this NPC by jobs, which is another sort of way to look at NPCs. So here we see NPCs with jobs, which can also be considered like a combat role, where you've got like bruisers, defenders, leaders, skirmishers. They have this role that they're filling within the combat space, and these NPCs can just be dropped in and fulfill that role. So let's say I wanted to have an archer, somebody that can harass the enemies from range. Well, I can look at the artillery role, and the two choices are archers and hydromancers. So archers, if I open an archer, it's a level 5 creature because it is a melee creature. You can adjust it up or down with the elite tag or the weak tag. And we see, it's got a longbow attack. For melee, I like this. It has an improvised arrow, so it just pulls an arrow out of the quiver and stabs with it, right? Because why wouldn't you be able to just stab something with an arrow? Most of the rules don't really do that, so it's kind of cool. It is an improvised weapon, which does 1d4 instead of the full damage. And what actions does it give? Parting gift. When foes get close, the archer makes an unexpected strike with an arrow and escapes. So you can make a melee strike and stride away. So stab with the arrow and get out of dodge. Or, a 2-action careful aim to give the weapon strike a +2 circumstance bonus on the attack roll, which makes them pretty accurate and embodies that flavor of what an archer would do on the battlefield. But there's a whole level range here from level 2 all the way up through 12 that you can drag and drop these into your combat situation. A fun one here, is the wrestlers, right? The hexers, which I imagine are people that can put status conditions on the PCs. If I pull up the level 5 wrestler, you can see the wrestler has a fist attack. It has the grapple, right? You can grab something. It's pretty good at doing like a grapple. It has a suplex. If you've grabbed or restrained someone, you can then slam them over the head and deal damage while they're grabbed. And I love this sort of reflex, which is called the clinch strike, which is like you have someone successfully grabbed, they escape, you get a free reaction punch on them. They don't have like blanket opportunity attacks, right? They're not a full fighter. They don't have opportunity attacks, but they do, in this specific circumstance, have a chance to sort of punch. But there is a whole list here, right? Artillery, bruisers, defenders, hexers, leaders, medics, skirmishers. The design philosophy here is making these NPCs, I've split them into 7 different combat roles. The NPCs are designed to fulfill one or more of these combat roles while remaining true to the core identity of whatever job that NPC has. The abilities for a tactician has abilities that feel appropriate for someone who makes their living as a tactician, while a necromancer has abilities that feel appropriate for someone who raises the dead. Even though they're both leaders, they do it in their own way, right? The final note here is I've only included NPCs with levels between 1 and 12 in this collection, with the notion that based on what Paizo has created, level 1 to 12 is the believable level of power for these more generic NPCs and can be slotted into your adventures accordingly. Things that go higher than 12 are more like heroes and probably less likely to exist in the world, so I get that for sure. If you're looking to bump these up to higher levels, you're going to want to look into making crews of like these people to work together to become a more believable threat. Instead of a single archer being really powerful, maybe 6 archers working together as a unit or a crew could push this up to like that, fill that level 13 through 20 range in your game. Continuing with our journey through the NPCs, we also have generic spellcasters. So how many times have you been playing in a game and you're like, oh, I need a level 5 wizard to go, but they don't really exist, right? And that's where the generic spellcasters come in. So if I open this up, you will see there are 4 different spell lists, right? Arcane, Divine, Occult, and Primal. and they range from level 1 through 20. So as an example, I'm just going to create a level 5 Arcanist, right? I drag this NPC into my world. Now he's there. I'm going to open the character sheet. We can see its name is Arcanist 5, Creature 5. Melee attack, stats are all acceptable. Inventory is going to show nothing. But you're also going to notice the spell lists are empty, right? Now, it does tell you how many spells they should have, right? They should have 4 first level, 4 second level, and 3 third level spells as this sort of Arcanist level 5. Well, that's where we need to generate a spell list for our spellcaster, right? We need to populate this with the spells we want. Maybe you know the spells you want. Maybe you need the spellcaster to fit a role in your campaign. That's great. Drag the spells you want. But maybe you don't know. Maybe you're just generating a random encounter. And that's where this macro that comes with this module really shines. And that's the generate random spell list macro. So I will open this here. This allows you to generate literally a list of spells for your spellcaster in whatever level range is applicable for that token. In our case, we're going to make sure that we only take common. You know what? I'm feeling crazy. We're going to bump this up to uncommon instead of just common. And we're going to allow all spell schools. Sorry, 5 cantrips, 4 first levels, 4 second levels, and 3 third level spells. If you have like desire traits, maybe you want to make a fire wizard, we could put the fire. Let's try it. Let's hit select. Boom. I've generated my arcane spell list. You can see a lot of them, they do have the fire trait. Blazing Dive is a fire spell, fire and air. So from here, all I got to do is drag them to my spellcaster. I can use this to generate a random spell list for an NPC. If I don't like the list I get, I can just hit reroll, and boom, I get a new rerolled list with slightly different spells. This generate random macro is a cool sort of tool to keep in your pocket that even if you're not using these generic NPCs, sort of the shells of the spellcasters, it's still a pretty useful tool. But combined with these shell spellcaster stat blocks, it allows you to make really cool spellcasting NPCs for your encounters. All right, up next is the thing I was most excited for. When I saw this first, it blew my mind. I said, why had I never thought of this before? And that is crews. What if a group of 4 to 6 NPCs, all in the similar role, are working together to fight you as a single unit or a crew? Well, that's exactly what crews are, and this module comes with a bunch of crews ready to go. So I got a level 2 archer. We can see level 2 archer stat block on the screen. I'm then going to now pull in the archer crew. The first thing you're going to notice is the archer crew actually takes up 4 spaces instead of 1. Not because it's bigger, it's because it's representing 4+ creatures all working together, so they're all sharing that space. So a level 2 creature as an archer has 17 AC and 28 hit points. Archer crew, which is the basic crew template, has 103 hit points, right, and 23 AC. So it's bumped up these stats considerably to make it more competitive with that creature. But let's see what else is done, right? The regular longbow attack is, a D8 plus 4. The new one is also a D8 plus 4. Actually, I am sorry. I think the damage isn't reflected properly on the sheet because the NPC sheets don't reflect the templates, but the rolls will. So we can see it says 1d8 plus 4 piercing, but the damage, if I look in the chat, it's actually 2d8 plus 8, which brings it more in line with that level of creature. The real place this shines is with the crew traits. This crew has the diversified strike action. So when the crew of 4, 5, 6 archers take this 2 action ability, they spread out their attacks, taking advantage of their numbers to deal with multiple foes simultaneously, right? It's not just one archer with a bow, it's 4, 5 archers shooting at different targets. So with this, the crew makes 2 strikes against 2 different targets. Both count towards the multiple attack penalty, but they don't increase until after they made their attacks. That's pretty cool. And there's also this sort of scattered shots passive part of the archer crew effects. So the crew's range strikes deal level dependent splash damage to the target and all other creatures within 10 feet of it. So it's splash damage, right? They shoot it, the arrows land on the target, but because there's so many arrows, it actually hits around that target, splash damage. I make the strike. we'll see it puts the note, the template puts the note that says the range strike deals level dependent splash damage. If I click the level dependent splash damage, we can see for this creature, it's 3 splash damage around that target. And it's a really fun, like, it just makes sense, right? We're taking one archer, we're upscaling it to multiple archers working together. They're going to do splash damage, they're going to shoot multiple targets without penalty. I can just visualize the way this fight would work, really get excited for some of the possibilities. Especially if you're taking a creature or an NPC or something that they fought all the time, they've now leveled past it being a threat. Now you just bump it up to a crew and bring it back. And A, it makes the existing stat blocks more applicable at a wider range, but B, how much more badass are your players going to feel when they are beating down 6 archers when a few levels ago they were only fighting 1. You know, it works on a lore thematic sense, and it works balance sense in the game too. So kudos to Avery for this. I really love crews and the templates and the whole ideas behind them. And just out of the bat, I mean, look at how many crews: Doctor crews, Enforcer crew, and Wrestler crews, right? You can have the single wrestler doing grabs and suplexes. Now you're doing like multiple 5 wrestlers all grabbing you and pinning you down, right? You still have the same stuff. You have the clinch strike, the grapple, the suplex from before, but skilled teamwork, right? For one action, the crew works together to get +2 circumstance bonus on its next skill check, which could then lead into like a grapple, right? You're going to get a +2 on that athletics check. They're better at grappling because there's multiple of them helping each other. Crews, double thumbs up, 100%. Anything you're going to take from this module and use, probably crews. I know I'm excited to start using crews. Let's move on to templates. So all of these things we've been talking about, the crews, all of these are NPCs that are drag and droppable. But what if you want to just modify existing NPCs? Well, that's where templates, where Foundry has this ability to drag and drop things to tokens, and Avery has made these cool templates. You drag them to the NPC and it changes the underlying stats in interesting, fun, and just memorable ways. So let's talk about what types of templates there are, right? In this case, they have a thing called Ancestry Templates. So many times when you're fighting an NPC, you're drag and dropping the NPC. Maybe it's a guard, maybe in this case it's the gold tank investor, but it's something that's just generic, right? The stat block is not really reflective of the ancestry. It doesn't matter what the underlying ancestry is. That's not what defines the token. But this Mercenary Marketplace Ancestry Templates allow you to sort of give a little bit of ancestry flair to that token by simply drag and dropping. So in this case, right, I have these 4 tokens, exactly identical, right? 14 AC, 8 hit points, pretty easy. If I drag this sort of dwarven template to it, I'm going to turn this gold tank investor into a dwarven gold tank investor. Now it has built in, you know, the 6 ancestries: dwarf, gnome, halfling, elf, goblin, and human for now. And each one of those also have heritages that are give special features for that heritage. In this case, I'm going to make a strong-blooded dwarf. I click that, and now you can see my gold tank investor. The stat block is adjusted a little bit. My hit points get a little more. My fortitude save goes up, right? My will save goes up. I get, you know, dark vision. I get the dwarven tag on my token and my dwarven strong-blooded passive. But how cool is that? Now I can, you know, make one of these gold tank investors a dwarf. I can make another one a gnome, and I'll pick, you know, a Fey Touch gnome. You can see the token shrinks to match the small size. I'll make this one an elf, and I'll say Arctic elf. And then lastly, I'll make this one a halfling, lucky halfling. 4 drags, I have now made each of these NPCs slightly distinct from each other in fun, unique ways. And what I like about this is it really highlights what makes Foundry so interesting, because if I was running this encounter at the table and I wanted to have, you know, it's very simple to have one stat block for each of these 4 creatures is exactly the same. But with the virtual space and the ability for each one of these tokens to have its own unique stats that I can reference so much easier than I could at the table and remembering which is which, this really uses the power of Foundry to its fullest. And this is the kind of content that I like, because it's definitely for a digital space, and it makes Foundry that much more alive and that much easier than you could even do it at the table. All right, and then moving on to the crew templates. we're going back to the crews that we looked at before, right? The crews were built using these templates. You can drag the templates like we drag the ancestry abilities to any underlying token and make a crew out of it. So I'm going to pull up here just a goblin warrior, right? A boring goblin warrior. This first goblin warrior, I'm going to leave as it is so you can see the base stats. Develop our own crew of goblins. So the question is, do we want to add a ragtag crew or crew? So if you do the ragtag crew, it's going to produce a crew that's 2 levels higher. So the -1 goblin would become a level 1 threat. If you pick the full crew template, it creates a 4 level higher threat. So the -1 goblin becomes a level 3 goblin warrior. So I'm going to attach the crew template here. So it's going to ask me what's the base creature size. I'm going to say small. And then because I'm picking the crew template, okay, I get to pick the first sort of crew ability. Now, it has a drop list that has more than it can show, but we can see them all here. We're gonna say collective reflexes is the first ability. And then for our second crew ability, say team flanking. Right? Swarms of goblins. So now I have my goblin crew, a level 3 creature, 21 AC, 56 hit points. And the actions I chose, right? I didn't know what they were. I just picked them based on flavor and name. So the goblin actions, team flanking. The crew ends its movement within melee reach of at least 1 enemy. The crew may select 1 foe that within its melee reach. That foe is flat-footed to the crew. The goblin moves next to an enemy. That creature's flat-footed because the goblins sort of swarm and help each other. Flavorful, it's cool. And in addition to that, they still have the goblin scuttle, right? If someone ends next to the goblin, they reaction step away. It's pretty cool. The collective reflexes we gave, at the start of each of the crew's turn, it gains an additional reaction. Now, the cool thing about this, right, because we have the reaction to step away anytime an enemy moves next to us, with the collective reflexes, right, the enemy moves next to us, ends their move, we step away. They get frustrated, they step next to us again. Guess what? We got another reaction, we step away. And we are this now sort of squirrely, hard to pin down group of goblins. That's cool, and that was just a small sample of what you can do with these crew templates and really just open up your mind to cool encounter building. So again, 100% love the crew template. And sort of the last thing in these template categories real quick are descriptive templates. And this allows you to give a little bit of personality to your tokens. Now, I use token molds, so when you drag an NPC to the screen, you can get an adjective adjusted to it, like a wimpy goblin or a brave goblin, but it's just an adjective. It doesn't affect the underlying stats. But what if you could adjust the underlying stats using a descriptive template? And that's exactly what these are. If I take this goblin warrior, okay, and I want to add a descriptive template to it, let's say I want one that's not going to adjust its level. I can pick one of these from the 0 level adjustment. So I'm going to add the cowardly template. It's now a cowardly goblin. Sorry, whenever it gains the frightened condition, gain 1 more, so it's susceptible to being scared. But it's faster. It gets the speed increases by 5 feet, and it gets the action Cowardly Run, which is new action. So Cowardly Run, when your creature has the frightened condition, it can run, step and stride, or stride twice. It can run away really easy. And because it's a level 0 adjustment, it doesn't really make the creature harder or easier. It just makes it different. Now, how many times have you, also said like, oh, I'm going to use the elite tag to bump it up a level, or I'm going to use the weak tag to bump it down a level? It does it. It adjusts the stats across the board, but it doesn't give any flavor. But here, we can actually have these sort of hardy template. If I add the hardy template to this goblin, we're going to see it makes it tougher, right? It's now a level 0 creature. It's an adjustment that's descriptive and has mechanical changes. It's descriptive. It's fun. They're fun to play around with, right? And the cool thing is, instead of just going up a level or down a level, you can go all the way down to like level 3 levels lower. So it gives you a greater range to make whatever creature you want work at the level you're doing. It's cool. It's fun. Again, the reason I love it, it really leans into that philosophy, that digital space that Foundry allows, which is make each enemy unique without putting much more stress on the GM. And that's always a plus in my book. I hope you really enjoyed this Recall Knowledge first look at the Mercenary Marketplace Volume 1 with over 370 NPCs to add to your campaign, or, the 29 templates to tweak all of your existing actors. You will find the tools you need to make your games that much easier to run and that much more fun for your players. Big shout out to Avery Ray here for letting me take a look at their content before it releases. Their work is amazing here, deserves to be seen by everyone, deserves to be bought by everyone. Because my final verdict, 2 thumbs up, absolutely, definitely. You're going to want to add this to your toolbox. The crew templates alone, in my book, justify the cost of the product, which at this time is listed for about $10. You can find the link down below in the description. Go purchase or pre-purchase if it hasn't released yet. The NPCs by class and job/role are just the icing on the cake here, and the descriptive templates also rounds out my 3 favorite things about this module. I really love anything that takes advantage of the virtual space. Now remember, it launches on May 16th exclusively for the best VTT on the market, Foundry VTT. If you can, help me help Avery by sharing this. Spread the word on social media about this product. Make sure everyone in the Foundry and Pathfinder 2e community knows about how cool this product is. And if all goes well, let's cross our fingers and hope for a volume 2. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and goodbye.